The Fujifilm XE line, in my opinion, is the best balance of a compact camera with a timeless aesthetic design that does not compromise on performance. It features the minimalism of the X100 series and the power of the XT series. So when the new XE5 was released, and despite that extravagant price, I ended up buying one before my photography trip to Europe, and here's why I think it's almost perfect. Thank you to Storyblocks for supporting this independent camera review. So, I've owned the Fujifilm XE5 for over 6 weeks now, and I've put it through its paces as a compact travel camera during my trip to Europe. I was traveling light, so I left my trusty Nikon ZF behind, and the Fujifilm XE5 was a great substitute for both photo and video. It's also a lot more compact and lighter. So, in today's video, I want to cover what I love about this beautiful little camera, what I dislike, along with a few small technical issues that I encountered. And then I'll be finishing off the video with why I think this camera is ironically not good value for money. Let's jump right into it. Just a real quick disclaimer, I brought this camera with my own money. Fujifilm isn't sponsoring this video, so they have no say or altering my opinion, and I'll be sharing my hands-on user experience, not just the specs on paper. And with that said, let's jump into what I love about the Fujifilm XE5. The first thing is the sensor. I love that they included the same flagship sensor that is in the H2 and the X-T5, and that being the now legendary 40 megapixel X-Trans 5 sensor. Having personally own the XE5, I know the amazing amount of dynamic range and detail you can pull out of the files. It didn't matter if you under or overexpose your image, you have so much flexibility in post when editing these fantastic raw files. It removes many of the issues I have with APS-C sensors and provides that full frame appearance through color density and dynamic range. Now, just quickly, the DR settings, so the DR 100, 200, and 400, essentially work like a subtle HDR feature. They blend exposures to preserve more detail in the highlights and the shadows without that unpleasant, clunky, or HDR look that you might get from, say, an iPhone. I personally edit all my raw files with my nostalgic film Lightroom presets. If you like the way that I edit my photos, definitely check the link down below, and if you sign up to my newsletter, you'll receive 20% off. I think the straight out of camera JPEGs are great, but the reason why I personally edit the raw files is to harness all of the camera's capabilities. If you shoot JPEGs, that's totally fine. I just would suggest changing that setting to a HEIF file. HEIF is a smaller file size, but gives you much more dynamic range and color depth. And finally, I highly recommend shooting the film simulation along with a raw file. In 2 years, you may want to re-edit or print one of these images, and having the raw file redundancy is key. Next is the build and the general aesthetics of this compact rangefinder-esque camera. I really love that they maintain the same style as the predecessor with a few noticeable and controversial changes. The first change is the film simulation dial, which I personally was upset about. However, after using this camera, I actually found it very useful. For instance, by customizing the FS1 to the across film simulation, it was super easy to switch from color to black and white for exposing my images. Even though this camera is very small and compact, it's quite ergonomic with a small lens attached. This design truly blends modern features with a classic timeless style. The layout and the customization ability gives you all the functionality you need for both photo and video, and it even has this tiny little joystick that's super clutch. Like, come on Nikon, where's your joystick on the ZF? Now, some people complain that this film simulation dial should have been an ISO dial instead, and in my opinion, I think those complaints are unwarranted, as you can easily change your aperture on the lens, and you can use the front or the rear dial to control your shutter speed and your ISO in practical use. In terms of the build, there is also the controversy about the aluminium top plate raising the retail price of the XE5, and also that this camera doesn't actually have weather sealing, which we'll be discussing at the end of the video. But something that does warrant the price increase is the addition of IBIS and the fantastic video capabilities. Fujifilm managing to squeeze IBIS into this compact body is an engineering masterpiece in my opinion. The IBIS is great for stills, allowing you to maintain a slower shutter speed to get a sharp image, but for me it unlocks the video, which I was shooting in 6.2K and f-log 2. But in terms of video, I have two minor criticisms here. The first is that the hidden crop on the 6.2K. On the X100VI you get a warning, but the XE5 completely hides the fact that a higher resolution still has that steep 1.33 times crop. The second frustration is the cumbersome process of switching between photo and video. Even when you map that function button to quick record, it doesn't actually switch into a movie mode. It only records an 8-bit file with the film simulation backed in, so you lose all of that critical f-log 2 quality. However, I did have one technical issue with this camera that I will discuss today, along with what I dislike about this camera, after I mention today's sponsor, which is Storyblocks. So I was obviously recently in Europe, and I highly despise traveling with a drone. So I just grabbed a few 4K aerial shots straight from Storyblocks. I've been using their 28 film burn transition pack. I just searched for film burn and it just popped up straight away. Lately, I've also been loving their retro typewriter titles and on-screen arrows. They're fully customizable, so you can tweak the timing, fonts, and color to fit your edit perfectly. Everything on Storyblocks is created by real artists, 100% royalty free, and ready to use forever. They've got unlimited downloads of stock footage, music, sound effects, and motion graphics, all for one predictable subscription. And guys, right now you can get an extra 2 months for free when you sign up for the annual plan. Just head to storyblocks.com/Gerard Needham. There's a link down below for easy use. So big thank you to Storyblocks for not only sponsoring this video, but bringing us independent and honest camera reviews. Now, before we jump into what I highly dislike about this camera, I just want to talk about the lenses and the accessories that complete the XE5 and that were really valuable to me. First up is the super light and compact sling from Wartongcraft. This is a 4.5 litre sling, which is absolutely fantastic for the XE5 along with a spare lens. Inside here, I was carrying a spare battery, which I didn't actually need. The XE5's battery life is surprisingly very good. I also had this red and black leather strap with these pig design quick release clips, which suits the camera's blacked out aesthetic perfectly. Finally, I have this Godox IT30 flash. This flash is absolutely fantastic. I have now brought two of these, and they are TTL and provide a beautiful fill light. Attaching this to the Fujifilm XE5 pretty much gives you the X100VI experience, minus the leaf shutter, of course. So I mainly shot this trip with only two lenses. The first was this 23mm f2.8 WR lens. Now, I didn't like this lens that much and I have basically not used it. The autofocus is not amazing, particularly for video, and it has this horrible rainbow lens flare that completely washes out the entire image. But it is extremely small, compact, looks amazing, and was very cheap when I purchased it as a kit with the XE5. So I actually shot majority of this trip with this fantastic but unreliable 18 to 55mm kit lens. This lens is absolutely fantastic. It gives you the full frame equivalent of a 28 to an 85mm, which is great not only for travel or street photography, but it's also a great portrait lens. I love this lens on my Fujifilm X-T5, but on the XE5, it's just a little bit too big, where a thumb grip could have definitely helped. Now, I say unreliable as my main technical issue with this camera is actually related to the 18 to 55mm lens. For whatever reason, it gives you this warning message to turn off the camera and makes the camera unusable for a few minutes. I need to send this lens back for a refund or a warranty claim at least, as I had the same issues with my X-T5. Okay, so I really do love this camera. It looks beautiful, it's light, compact, and the files for both photo and video are absolutely gorgeous. However, myself and probably you watching were very disappointed in the retail price of the XE5. Well, that's only one of 3 issues that I had with this camera. Issue number 1 was the weather sealing. I have no clue, maybe you guys can help me out in the comment section about why Fujifilm released a new kit lens that is completely weather sealed while the XE5 is not. It makes no sense to me why they would do this, especially at this price point. Weather sealing is important for myself and many other photographers who like to travel or shoot in the street, which is what this camera is intended for, right? Weather sealed cameras protect against shooting in the rain or dusty conditions. So I actually created my own point scale, and I'll be removing 2 points from the lack of weather sealing. Number 2 is the EVF. Now, this one doesn't really affect me, but I think there's merit to mention it for honesty and transparency that Fujifilm put the same EVF resolution that they've been running for over a decade now. So they're using the same old 2.36 million dot viewfinder. It's not bad in my opinion, it just feels outdated and is behind the times for what they advertise as a premium product, yet they don't include a premium or even a half decent new EVF in this camera. So Fujifilm, I'm removing a point for the outdated EVF, but number 3, and I'm sure you guys can agree, is the price. There was a 100% markup from the original XE4, which retailed at $849 USD, to the XE5, which retails at $1,699. I, along with you guys, agree this price rise is just ridiculous. This price even competes with Fujifilm on their own X-T5, which is a much better camera respectively. It definitely feels like you're paying for luxury, not just the hardware, and it seems that Fujifilm can basically put a price on anything and they know the camera is going to sell, right? In Fujifilm's defense, since 2019 when the XE4 was released, we did experience a pandemic that drove inflation up. There was a chip shortage that increased prices by 30 to 40%, and some other things happened in the last 6 years that have just made tech more expensive. However, I paid 2,800 Australian dollars for this camera. For that amount of money, I could have brought a much better full frame camera with weather sealing from a different manufacturer, and those camera models haven't seen a massive price hike like the XE5 did. Okay, so on my own completely made up rating system, I give the Fujifilm XE5 a very generous score of 92 out of 100. If you scored higher or lower, definitely comment it down below. And to close, if you want my opinion as someone who has owned the X-T5, the X100VI, and now the XE5, I think if you want a compact travel camera, just buy the X100VI. It's a much better camera compared to the XE5 with the limitation of not being able to change lenses. If you do want to change lenses, just buy the X-T5. It's basically the same size camera. It looks fantastic. It's fully weather sealed, has dual card slots, and is an actual little beast of a camera. I sold my X-T5 for the Nikon ZF. If you want to see my full review on the Nikon ZF, definitely check out this video right here. I've also linked my X-T5 and my X100VI reviews below. If you're not going to go watch these reviews, make sure you subscribe, and if you felt that I was honest and transparency, definitely give me a like. That helps me out a lot. Comment if you agree or disagree, and we will see you in the next one. Bye for now, guys.